Thank you, Liz, for your wonderful talk. I had an interesting sort of flip experience. You know, I now have hearing aids, and that we are not our perceptions either. So I had them adjusted so that my piano wouldn't sound so tinny. And then, you know, I went online and found a piano, and I'm in the audiologist's office. And then when I got home, it was a mess. It's just horrible. I mean, I'm still like that. I have to see the audiologist again and adjust them again. And I wanted to say to Stan, who, if you don't know my husband, I wanted to say, listen to this, listen how horrible this piano, but he couldn't. So yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Okay, so thank you. Are there any questions? Surely there's a question. Yes.
Some friends of mine and I have been talking about like the two kinds of truth, like absolute and relative.
Mm-hmm.
And one person in the group had brought up a quote from their teacher that went something along the lines of right view is as wide as the sky and right conduct is as fine as barley flour. And to me, that reminded me of something that you've said, which is Zen is understanding yourself and helping this world. And with that like analogy, that seems like a really immense thing to balance. And I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Okay, so let me try to summarize for the people online. So you were talking to friends about absolute and relative, and one person said that right view is as wide as the sky. It isn't very wide, actually. And that right conduct, was that, is as fine as barley flour. Okay. And then you follow that by asking,
Yeah,
how do you balance it? Oh, and then you quoted this thing that you attributed to me, but no, it's not me, it's my teacher, and probably goes back who knows how far, that Zen is attaining your true self and helping this world. Okay. You don't have to balance it. It'll balance itself. It's just that simple, you know. So, but you talked about right view and right conduct, so we should talk about that. So that's the Eightfold Path. And let's see if I've got them. There's right view, there's right thinking, there's right right you know, like your job, what is that? Livelihood, right livelihood, right speech. I'm going to leave something out. Right effort, right meditation, and right mindfulness. Is that the last one, or wisdom? Concentration, yeah, concentration. Okay, I left one out because I only had 7. I always do that. Usually I leave more out. So this is a sort of, this is one of those lists, and it's a very important list. This is one of those lists that's there if you're really confused and you have no idea what to do. It's sort of like a little checklist. It's like the precepts. These are do, remember. Don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, don't do bad things out of lust, don't take intoxicants to reduce heedlessness. So it's like a checklist. So if you find yourself about to lie, then you can say to yourself, oh, I'm not supposed to lie, and then maybe you won't lie. And similarly, if you find yourself, you know, sort of being a real slob, and then you could say, well, wait a minute, what about right effort? You know, and right, I prefer the word correct than right, so correct effort. So correct view, correct thinking, correct, etc., speech, etc. But better than checklist is sort of the Zen approach, and this is not original with me either. Correct view is not even wide as the sky. Correct view is no view. And that's very much what Liz was talking about. Correct view is not thinking that your viewpoint is correct. Correct view is completely open mind. Just, it's don't know mind. That's correct view. Correct view is just, look at this. And correct thinking is exactly no thinking. That means not being attached to your thoughts. Correct speech, not attachment to your speech. And often the best speech is no speech. Quite literally, the best speech is no speech, right? But not always. Sometimes you have to speak. So always behind these things is for whom? For whom? And that's not a checklist. Can you put down your self-concern? Can you put down your self-absorption? Can you put down your desire to make your life work out? Can you see what's happening around you? Can you really connect with not just the people, but all the creatures that you are in contact with at any given moment? So this direction, this not for me direction, is very important. And you ask how you balance these things, as I say, they balance themselves. They balance themselves. We want our mind to be as wide as the universe, not just the sky, but the universe. We want to let the universe in. We want our perceptions to be clear. And it's not, I want my perceptions to be clear. It's like, that's our job. Our job is to do that, to establish that base from which we can function. So that's my response to your question. So thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Is there a good resource for understanding the precepts better?
Is there a good resource for understanding the precepts better? There are many resources for understanding the precepts. You notice I left off an adjective. Because most of the resources, and I have good friends that I respect who have written things about understanding the precepts. The precepts are not for understanding. You know, if you make it an intellectual thing, like there's a Zen teacher in another school who I really respect and I really like, but she has this workbook for the precepts where you write down, you know, you pick a precept a week or something like that, and then you write down like how you related to that precept and how you worked on that precept, whatever that means, and what situations you found yourself in where you were dealing with that precept. And, you know, it becomes very intellectual. You're just making a story, is my view of it, is you're creating a story and you're thinking that that story is reality. So I'm not a fan of that kind of understanding of the precepts. Just look at your life. You know, I remember when my son was really, really little, and of course we raised him to be a good little vegetarian, and he had a friend coming over and there was a fly and the friend went to kill the fly. My son, why would you do that? You know, he didn't have to read anything, but then later he started eating meat and he became a big fan of eating meat. I know some people are big fans of eating meat, but yeah. And his daughter, my granddaughter, once when we told her that meat came from cows when she was 4, she said, no. I said, you know, yeah, they come from cows, because she loved animals. They come from cows. She said, no, they come from meat. You know, so anyway. But yeah, so it's like, so the precepts, they're not for understanding. It's like when you see a sign that says, you know, let's see, where am I? Topeka, Kansas City. Do you have to understand that sign? You don't have to understand that sign. You don't have to analyze that sign. You don't have to see how, you know, East and West play out in your life. You know, what is the meaning of Topeka? What is the meaning of Kansas City? You know, another story, when my son was learning how to drive and he would go to Oak Park Mall with his friends to hang out, which tells you how old he is. He's obviously not a kid. And one time I said, well, do you ever go to Topeka? And he said, why would anyone do that? But anyway, sorry, people who like Topeka. But yeah, so it's that. It's that way. They're just signposts. That's all they are. Yeah. And yeah, you can argue about what is the meaning of, like I wear leather shoes. Okay, something had to die. Some creature had to die for my leather shoes. But yeah, but if you overanalyze and make it intellectual, you just have to digest it. Yeah, right. And then the other thing about precepts, it's always very important to say that this for whom is very important. So sometimes you have to lie in order to help somebody. Sometimes you just have to do that. And sometimes you have to steal to help somebody. Sometimes you have to kill. I mean, you really have to in certain situations. You never have to do bad things out of lust. You never have to do that. You never have to take intoxicants to induce heedlessness. But the other precepts, yeah, sometimes you have to break them. So they're signposts, but sometimes you have to go off the trail. I'm not going to take I-70. I'm going to go some other way. Yeah, sometimes you have to do that. So thank you for your question. Are there any other questions? Yes.
So Liz finished up her talk saying that people are not their thoughts. And she had said it in different variations. We are not our thoughts, which, I know I'm not my thoughts. And then the Heart Sutra says form is emptiness, emptiness is form. So what are we then?
So we're not our thoughts. I'm condensing. We're not our thoughts. And the Heart Sutra says form is emptiness, emptiness is form. What are we then? Good question. You expect me to give you an answer? We're a biped that, I mean, what is it? Man is a featherless biped. That was a sentence that was used in early 20th century logic texts, like really high philosophical logic to analyze, the deep structure of language. Man is a featherless biped. I don't know what that means for the women in this room, but anyway, or for monkeys, they don't have feathers either, and they're bipeds. Or some of the apes, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, no, we're not going to tell you what are we. And it's not because there may be people who will see this and think, oh, that's a hidden sort of, No, it's not. The reason is you can't say. Because if you say, you're pinning it down. And if you're pinning it down, you're losing it. You've lost it. It's like, I don't know if they still exist, but when I was a kid, there were butterfly collectors. And they'd take their nets out, what's his name? The guy who wrote Lolita was a big one. Nabokov was a butterfly collector. They'd take their nets out and they'd go looking for the rarest, most beautiful butterflies. They'd catch them, and then they'd kill them, and they'd pin them to a board, and they'd preserve them, and they'd have you look shocked. This was like, 50 years ago, people did this, 60 years, they did this. They were very proud of themselves. I got this butterfly, you gotta see it. It's dead, So if you try to answer, what am I in like a sentence or a paragraph or even a book, it's like killing a butterfly and pinning it and putting it on a board to display. You can't possibly capture it. It's like emptiness is the same notion. What is emptiness? Oh, emptiness is, you can't do that. You can't do that. So yeah, you have to, as De Kwangsim likes to say, look inside. I don't like that phrase because I like things to come inside, but you have to look at this. What am I? Who am I? What is this? Without trying to pin it down. Yeah. That's what a lot of our Zen training is about, is learning not to pin things down. As Liz says in her talk, learning not to pin the people around us down, I mean, she talked about assuming that a certain student would not ever be able to do anything, and this student did lots of stuff, So we have this notion of we are going to pin everything down, we're going to understand, and that kind of understanding is just putting things in a box And then taping the box shut? What good does that do? Yeah. So thank you for your question, which I refuse to answer. Are there any other questions? We have time for one more, if there is one.
I have a story about butterflies,
Okay.
just to bring home how recent this is that people did this. My cousins, my three male cousins who lived closest to us, did this, and they got rare butterflies and pinned them, and they were up in my aunt's house. And then one of my cousins was visiting from Colorado, and I worshiped her, and I wanted to do everything she did. And so she got out their butterfly nets, and we went out in the yard and we caught butterflies. And then she told me what we had to do with them. She's a few years older than me. And I was horrified, and I couldn't do it.
How old are you?
12,
Okay.
13. I couldn't do it, but I'd captured the butterflies. So probably for about 2 weeks, I kept the butterflies in little jars with, right? And I looked at them every day. But one day I was like, what am I doing? And I just set them free. So I just wanted to share that. But that was, that was in the 60s.
Thank you. Yeah, and you had a question?
Well, I was just gonna, I use the great question to meditate. It started out as, what am I? Don't know. Then I went with the variation of what is this? And I've noticed that sometimes, instead of trying to figure, what is this in terms of me? It's become this broader, what is this? I'm wondering, is that am I off track?
So the question is about what am I morphing into what is this? And the what is this becomes very big, and am I off track? No. You can't be off track. The only way you can be off track is saying, oh, this is the cosmic energy of the universe, which is flowing through all space and time. Then you're off track. But if you're, what is this? Then you're not off track. Okay? Good, thank you. So it's time for announcements. And I have my phone here. Could you stop the recording, please?